Hey friends, welcome to episode 1/the introduction of the Unlearn podcast. My name is Bianca and I will be your host for this podcast. So episode 1, I am here. I finally made it. I'm really proud of myself because I have been talking about, thinking about, and just mulling over making a podcast for a long time now. And I spent a lot of time making up excuses as to why I couldn't do it. I didn't have the full studio set up. The market's already saturated. You know how it goes. But recently, I've had a real shift because I have been interviewed in other people's podcasts. And I've really thought about how inspired and connected and empowered I feel after speaking. So I've decided I am just going to start. We'll see what happens. I have so much knowledge to share, and I know so many people with huge amounts of knowledge in their own areas. So I'm excited to see where this goes. So today's episode is just a short one. I just want to share a little bit about myself, what you can expect from Unlearn, and the vision that I have for this podcast. So let's just jump straight in. For you guys listening that don't know me, I am the founder of Neuro.spark. I'm a mind-body practitioner based here in New Zealand. I am a coach. I have studied psychology, NLP. I've delved into somatic trauma therapy, and I am a lightning process practitioner. If you haven't come across the lightning process, it's a 3 half-day training program that really focuses on the science behind how the brain and the body interact. So often I'm working with people that are really stuck mentally or physically and have these ongoing chronic symptoms. And I teach them some really powerful tools on how to retrain the brain and regulate their nervous system so that they can start to rebuild their health and put their body into a state where it can heal. So I've been doing this work for about 3 to 4 years now. And on top of the one-to-one work and the small group work that I do, I really decided that these topics that I teach, like around the mind-body connection, neuroscience, psychology, I really feel like the general population needs to learn these and understand these before they get to a point where they're stuck in their health. And that is why I last year decided to create Mindflex, which is a series of workplace wellbeing workshops and support programs that have been created for teams and workplaces. So that is where I'm at in my professional life. I am doing a few different things. I've got a few things on the go. But back to this podcast. So who is this podcast for, and what can listeners expect when they are tuning in to Unlearn? Unlearn will be for anyone that wants to work on the relationship that they have with themselves, which is the most important relationship. If you are looking to improve and grow with your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your overall well-being, your relationships, this will be the podcast to tune into. We'll be looking at how to create change and build habits, and how to take really courageous and brave steps to become the most aligned and empowered versions of ourselves. One thing that I have learned through the work I do is that we are our own best healers. But often we don't get taught about our innate power. It's not something we learn at school, and we definitely don't get taught how to access this. So this is what I'm here to do with this podcast. I really want to walk alongside you. I want to support you so you can find the answers within and spark you to have your own realizations. And we're calling this podcast Unlearn because so much of my own self-growth journey has really required me to unlearn like certain beliefs and habits and stories that weren't serving me so that I could make way for the new. I started my self-development journey. I mean, I don't really love the word journey, but I started on this path about 10 years ago now. And it's so interesting to look back because sometimes it's not until we stop and we look back that we really appreciate how much we have shifted internally. I have unlearned and relearned so much about myself during this period, and it's been this process of self-discovery that has got me here. So how is this going to look? Well, some of these episodes will be solo episodes where I'm going to share some tools and lessons that I have learned that hopefully will save you some time and energy. I want to keep it really simple because simple can be implemented. And if you're anything like me, if things are too complex, it just puts me off and I just don't do it. So we're here to keep things simple. I would love to get some of my really powerful, amazing clients on here. So if anyone's listening, then feel free to message me. Ones who have become self-healers that have really shifted in their own mental and physical health. And I know by getting them on and listening to some of their stories, that will inspire some of you as well. I'm also going to have some really good conversations, some open and honest conversations from people that are really passionate about what they do and they're willing to share their story, because I think it's through listening and connecting with people's stories and finding similarities that is where we learn the most. So a bit of a side tangent here, but just before recording this, I was really thinking about how for most of my teens and 20s, I was that person who you would find at the back of a club or the back of a bar who would be having a D&M, who would be getting into like these deep conversations. I didn't really have many boundaries back then, but point being is that I really like to connect. I like to get to know people. I like to ask the hard questions. And this, on reflection, really thinking about it, is why I want to start this podcast, because I think so many of us are really craving those like good conversations, that deep connection, and connection is so crucial for our health. So I want to keep things real. And that kind of goes into the final part of what I want to say. I also want to take you on the journey with me too. Some of you will know that I have moved through years of chronic pain, anxiety in the past. Like all of us, I've been through many seasons, I've been through many highs and many lows. And I still feel like I'm at a point where I'm very much integrating the last few years of my life and really coming back to life, coming back to my center after moving through the physical and emotional and mental toll that grief and losing somebody so close to me has had, which I'm sure I'll share in another episode. I've really reached this point only recently, I'd say, where I've come to a place that I only want to show up as myself, like fully as myself. And I've really learned how important it is to give ourselves this space to evolve, to change, to expand, to embrace different parts, to embrace different interests. So who knows what direction I may want to take this podcast in the future, but hopefully you will stay with me as I evolve and I expand too. So I want to leave you guys with something today. I want to wrap up this introduction / episode 1 with a reflection that I'm currently having as I am recording this. I want to remind you not to let perfectionism get in the way of showing up. This is an unconscious pattern, an unconscious mechanism that really masks this fear of being seen, this fear of failure, the fear of getting judged. Personally, I've come so far with perfectionism and the way that it shows up in my life, but this inner expectation of things being polished before they are ready to go out still gets in the way sometimes. So I want to remind you to get out of your own way. Make the decision to do something, get started. It's always progress over perfection. We learn in the doing. The momentum is built in the doing and the consistency. It's really in the getting out of our comfort zone and taking a step forward. So I hope this encourages you for whatever pursuit you may have been sitting on, just like me with the podcast. Life is too short, so just get into doing the thing. So that's all for today. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. To episode 1 of the Unlearn podcast. If you have enjoyed this episode, please give me a follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts to stay updated with the latest episodes. I'm always open to suggestions, so feel free to reach out and connect. And until the next episode, I hope you have a beautiful week.